In this video, we are going to continue with our Django real-time chat website. We've built the user authentication system or the user management system. We've built the friend request or friend, relationship system. We can add friends, send friend requests, decline them, accept them, all that kind of stuff. Now, since we have all of this infrastructure in place, we can build the real-time chat features. That means private chat messages, public chat messages, and real-time notifications. So like if you get a friend request, you'll get a real-time notification. If you get a new chat message, you get a real-time notification, all that kind of stuff. Now this is going to be kind of a big section. There's really a lot to do here. So we're going to break this up into parts. The first part is going to be the public chat messages. The second part will be the private chat messages, and then we'll work on notifications. So first is the public chat. So since I've published this website already to production at openchat.xyz, we can go take a look at it, and I'm going to run you through the feature list and like what our goals are, what we want to build, and kind of the things that you want to think about when you're about to build a real-time chat system. So let's go to the production website. So here's the production website, openchat.xyz. I'm authenticated in my account, and right on the home page is the public chat room. So as soon as I refresh this page, the WebSockets connect to it, and it connects to the public chat room. Now, I want to run through the features of this public chat before we talk about like how we want to design these things in terms of like database tables and things like that. So the goal here is to build a public chat that uses Django channels with WebSockets and also Redis. So that's kind of, I guess, goal number one, you could say. Goal number two is we want to display the number of connected users up in the top here. So if I open like an incognito window and I go to openchat.xyz and I was to log in with another account, this guy here, this is not a real account, but it's not a real email, but it is an account on the website that I made. Notice there we go, our number of connected users goes to 2. And if I said hey into the chat room, there's Blake and he's saying hey. And if I go back to the original view where I'm logged in with my original account, the connected users count still says 2, and I can see that new message that Blake printed out there. So that's feature number 2, which is display the number of connected users at any time. So if I was just to open that incognito window again and say I was to close it, notice right away that counter goes to 1. So that there's no longer 2 connected users, there's just 1. So objective number 3 is send and receive messages in real time. So you just saw me send that message, hey, from Blake. I could say hey there from Mitch. These are real-time messages. Everybody who's connected to the chat room would be able to see these messages. Next is pagination. So just like we were able to print out brand new messages to this chat, we also want to be able to look up old messages. So all of these messages are saved in the Postgres database. And if I scroll up to the top, you see a kind of loading animation and it gets the next page of results. So watch this sidebar here as I scroll to the top. It gets smaller and it kind of jumps to the middle because it's getting the next page of results. I think it gets 30 results or something like that. I can't remember, but anyway, it does query like the previous messages as you scroll up. This is called pagination. Now the next feature is that progress indicator. So just like with pagination, it's always good to have some kind of a progress indicator, letting the user know that something is happening in the background. So if I scroll to the top, progress indicator shows because it's loading the previous messages. So that is the next feature, progress indicator while messages load. Now the next feature is we want to asynchronously load profile images to the chat while the chat loads. So if you watch really carefully, when I refresh this, the profile images actually show a default image at first, and then the profile images get set. So it kind of shows it actually did it pretty quick there. You couldn't really tell, but maybe if I send another message, you'll be able to tell. Yeah, see there was that gray image, that kind of default image, and then the real profile image is loaded asynchronously kind of in the background. This helps because if you don't do this, the page can kind of jump around when it loads new images. So it's always better to just to set like a default image and then kind of load the real image in the meantime. Now the last feature that this chat is going to have is Markdown. So if anyone knows what Markdown is, it's kind of like a HTML text rendering, a short way to render HTML. So like this would be a heading. You could do then some text into there. You could then do like a secondary heading. So secondary heading, some more text. And if I click enter, you get kind of that markdown highlighting. Also, we can do code snippets. So you do 3, I don't know what this character is called, but I can say here is some code. And then inside of there, code is rendered to the chat. So lots of cool features. Now let's talk about the kind of back-end systems that we have to think about when we're designing something like this. So let's think in terms of database models. What are the database models that we're going to need to achieve something like this? Well, first of all, we need to decide how many tables we're going to create. Well, we definitely need a table for the chat room itself. So like if I circle up here, this would be like model, let's say, equals public chat or public chat room. That would be like our first database model. And what would that model need? Well, we definitely need the count. We need some way to keep track of how many users are connected, and we also need a title. So up here we have a title. And that's pretty much actually all we need. The messaging stuff I'm going to talk about in a second. So really the only two fields that we need for any public chat room is we need a way to keep track of the connected users or the number of connected users, and we need a title. So there's really only two fields that we need for a public chat room. Now you might have been thinking, well, Mitch, what about the messages? Shouldn't we keep track of each individual message within the chat room? Well, no, actually, the better idea here is to create another model. So I could say model equals, public, we could say public chat message. Public chat message. And then within that, we would have a foreign key to the public chat room. So you could have you could have a field in here where this is a foreign key to the chat room. So public chat room. And that is terrible writing, so hopefully I can do a little arrow here just to kind of point. But the secondary model here would be a public chat message that would have a foreign key to whatever chat room that chat message was inserted into. Then of course, you would have like your message, like the content of the message. In this case, it would be like, hi. You would have like the user. That's important, obviously. The user information would contain like their profile, their username, and then also you have a timestamp here. So obviously, timestamp is almost always a good field to have in almost every model. So really we would have, at the end of the day, we would have two database tables. I'll just change the color a little bit over here. We would have two database tables. One would be the public chat room table, and then we would have a public chat message table. So two tables, and one table would have a foreign key to the other one. That is the public chat message table would have a foreign key to the public chat room table. By the way, if you were wondering how I was able to draw on the monitor, I have this really cool monitor it's just a standard monitor, but you can actually draw on it. And it comes with this really cool pen. So you can see there that I'm drawing on this monitor, and I can record the screen and do everything that I was doing. It's a standard regular monitor, but I can draw on it. And it's been really helpful for making diagrams and outlining things for people. Actually, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is this thing helpful or is it distracting? Like, what do you think of it? And if you're interested in buying one of these, I have an Amazon link down below where you can find it. It's not that expensive. It's, I guess, a little bit more than a standard monitor, but you get a lot more with it. If you're a programmer and you're just trying to figure out, what you want a certain view to look like, it's great for sketching. You can bring up a blank page. You can sketch out kind of what you want it to look like. You can save it as an image. It makes it a lot more clean, I find, too, because I used to use notebooks. So you draw out a bunch of stuff in a notebook, and then you have stacks and stacks of paper that just creates clutter. This way you can save it digitally and save it in a folder in an organized way on your computer. So I find it really handy anyway. So down below, there's a link. Check it out if you are interested. Now, since we're going to be building some new like database tables and things like that, it's generally a good idea just to build a whole new kind of feature within the project, which is what we've been doing so far, like with the friend feature, the personal feature, the account feature. So this one's going to be called the public chat feature. So Python manage.py, start app, and let's do public_chat. And that's going to do that code generation that we're used to when we've built our other apps. So now we have this public chat kind of directory inside of a project. Now, since we've created a new app, we have to go into settings.py and we have to add that to our installed apps list. So public_chat. So now I can save that and we can work on the models for this new feature. So as I talked about when we did our little diagram at the beginning of the video, we're going to work on the public chat room model and the public chat message model. So first, from django.conf, import settings. So we have access to our user model because we are going to need that. Each public chat room is going to have our public chat message is going to have a foreign key to the public user that it's associated with. So let's start with the public chat room. Let's do class public chat room and do models.model. And now define the fields for this public chat room. So this is going to be like the chat room title, first of all. So models.character field will do a max length of 255 characters. There's no way a chat room should have a longer title than that. I mean, 255 even is too big for me, in my opinion, but we'll leave it at 255. We'll do unique equals true. So no two public chat rooms can have the same title. And blank equals false. The title must be set. It's almost like a primary key in this case. Now we need a way to keep track of the number of connected users. So this is going to be a many-to-many field, many-to-many field. And of course, we want to reference settings.authUserModel. That's why we need to import settings. The help text here, help text can equal users who are connected to the chat. And I'm going to go up to my view and do word wrap so you guys can see all this on the same page. You know, I think I actually decreased the font size, so let me also increase that so you guys can see a little better. Now, mostly that is it. Now we're ready to do like the toString method and any other utility functions that we think we need for this. So first, the toString function, so string __ self, and we want to return the title, so self.title. Now we can build some kind of utility functions. Well, the first utility function is going to be for connecting a user. So anytime a user connects to the socket, this is what we're going to call to say, hey, this user successfully connected. So make sure to increment that kind of red counter in the top right that we talked about. So return true if user is added to the users list. And I don't think you really need to return true. I don't think that Boolean is actually used later in the course, but we're going to return true anyway. So is user added equals false. That's going to be the Boolean that we return. If not, user in self.users.all. So if the user is not inside of that list, then we want to do self.users.add user. We can call self.save, even though I don't think it's necessary to save that. And then is user added, we'll set that to true. And we can do L if the user is already in self.users.all. Then we know they're already in there, so is user added. We can just set that to true, return true for that Boolean. And then at the end of the day, return is user added. So there we go. That's our connect user function. Now, as you probably guessed, we need a disconnect user function. So define disconnect user self. Oh, and we need to add the user also. So user, there we go. And we want to do the same kind of thing. So I'm going to write some comments up here. So I want to return true if user is removed from the users list. Again, I don't believe the Boolean is necessary in the end code, but I'm going to leave it there anyway. So I'm going to comment or copy all this, paste it here, say is user, we can say is user removed. So change all of these Booleans to is user removed. And then here I want to say if user is in the list. So if user is in the list, then I want to remove it. So self.users.remove the user, call save, even though I don't think it's necessary. Then say is user removed and set that equal to true. In this case, we do not need that if statement. Now, the last kind of parameter or function or whatever you want to call it for our new table here, I want to add an @ property so that it can be used inside of a Django template. And I want to define a group name. This is going to be used when we set up our sockets. So I'll write some comments in here. So I'll say returns the channel's group name that sockets should subscribe to and get sent messages as they are generated. Hopefully, did I spell everything right there? Returns the channel's group name that sockets should subscribe to and get sent messages as they are generated. So the way Django Channels works is you kind of have like a key value pair system where users can subscribe to a group name, and then if they subscribe to that group name, it means that they'll receive all messages that get sent to that group. So in terms of like a chat room system, the chat, anybody who connects to the chat room wants to receive messages for that chat room. So what we do is we define a group name, and then we use that string as a key value pair for subscribing users and connecting them to the channel. So we're gonna talk more about this when we actually set up the channel, but I just want to kind of briefly describe what this property is all about. So it's important that this group name is unique. So we want to return, I'm going to return public chat room, and we can use some string interpolation here. Public chat room, and I'm going to do a dash and then the ID of the chat room. So self.id. That way it is definitely unique. You know, the public chat room, every row in the database is going to be unique. So just do public chat room and then use its ID to uniquely identify it. All right, so that's going to be our public chat room. So pretty simple, like I said, just two fields, title and users. Now we're going to build the public chat messages. So these are going to have foreign keys to the public chat rooms. So class public chat or public room chat message, we'll call it. You know, in hindsight, I wish I would have called this something else, but it's already in the source code, so I don't want to make any mistakes and start renaming stuff. But anyway, models.model. I'll write some comments here just so you can kind of get an idea at first glance what this is all about. So chat message created by a user inside a public chat room. I can even do in comments here, you know, foreign key. So let's create those fields. So the first one is, of course, every message will have a user associated with it. So models.foreign key, and then settings.auth user model, and then set an on delete. On delete equals models.cascade. So that means if the user was deleted, all of their corresponding chat messages would also be deleted. Now the room. So room equals models.foreign key also, and this will be a foreign key to that public chat room. And again, on delete, same kind of thing, models.cascade. So again, if the chat room is deleted, all of the chat room messages associated with it will also be deleted. Then we have the timestamp, very important to know when the users wrote the messages that they did. This will be a date time field with auto now add equal to true. So as soon as it's created, it's going to get a timestamp. Content will be like the body or the message content of the actual chat room message. So text field unique equals false, and blank also equals false. Now we need a toString function. So __ string __ self, and then we can return self.content. So that's the content of that public chat room message. Now I want to build kind of a custom manager to help us with some of the queries, some of the common queries that we're going to make. So I'm going to actually, before I write it down here, whoops, this should be return self.content. Accidentally deleted that. So up here we're going to create that custom manager. So class public room chat message manager, and do models.manager. Now I'm just going to define a single function because this is a very common query that we're going to be using throughout the kind of chat room app, I guess. So self and then room, it's going to take in the specific room. Now I'm going to get a query set for all of the chat messages by that specific room. So public room chat message dot objects dot filter room equals the room, and then order by the negative timestamp. So that's going to retrieve the newest messages first and then the oldest messages at the end. So return that query set. So you don't always have to create a manager. It's just kind of helpful because now what I'll do is I'll go down here and do objects equals public room chat message manager, initialize that. And now we can, on our public room chat messages, we can call by room, and we can easily get every single message, you know, by that specific room. So basically, if we have one message, we can get them all very easily. So I'm going to press Control S on that. I'm going to bring open our command prompt here. I'm going to write Python manage.py make migrations to migrate all of that new stuff that we just created. Looks like I have I forgot define here. So define string and then return that. Whoops. So Control S on that. And now let's try that again. Python manage.py make migrations. There we go. We made the migrations. Now migrate to apply these new models or these new tables to our database. So there's the migration successful, and now Python manage.py run server. Now before we take a look at the development environment, I want to set up the admin because we have some new models, and whenever you build new models, it's always a good idea to build the new admin so that you have a way to view them from the admin console. All right, so let's get a couple imports here. This is not going to be your classic easy admin because well, there's an issue. I'll explain the issue before I start writing any code just so I don't have to think and type at the same time. So the issue here is with a public chat room, you have you could have any number of public chat room messages. So you could have 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million. You could have a million messages. So if you have a million messages or more in the admin, that's going to take a very, very long time to query them unless you have some kind of like a caching strategy. So we're going to add like a special caching class in here to help the admin load. Otherwise, it could potentially take a very, very long time to load all of the messages. So Paginator imports, or Pagination import Paginator. Oh, I guess we're adding pagination basically, but also kind of caching. So Django.core.cache import cache, and from Django.db import models. All right, so now let's do get the imports for the models that we just built. So public chat.models import public chat room and public room chat message. And now let's build the first admin. So class public chat room admin admin.model admin, and now list display. So list display equals whatever the columns are that we want to display up at the top. We just want the ID and the title. There's not really very many columns anyway. I'm going to copy this 2 more times. The second one is going to be the search fields. So remember, this is what we're going to have the ability to search by. Again, just ID and title, because there's not really much else you could search by. Public chat room for the meta, and then we can register this. So this is a pretty straightforward one. Admin.site.register, public chat room, and then public chat room admin. So that one's simple. The tricky one is going to be the chat room messages. Now I'm actually just going to copy the next part from the source code. So I encourage you just to go down to the description of the video, grab this from the source code and copy it. So this caching paginator, and you can see a link up here to where I found this caching paginator, because I did not build this. I was not smart enough to build this. Some very smart guy came up with this and solved this sort of caching issue. So I just Googled it and found this, and it worked really great. So make sure to thank this guy if you go to his page and you comment or something. I don't even know how to explain what this does, to be honest, but what it does is it caches the chat room messages so that it'll take a very long time to load them all the first time. If you have like, thousands or millions or whatever, if you have a whole bunch, it'll take a long time the first time, but then it caches them so that the second time it doesn't take so long. So this is, this is an absolute must in my opinion if you have anything like a chat room, a database that's going to contain chat messages, because it's just going to take so long to query all of those messages. And some of you might be wondering now too, like, well, what about, we're doing it in the admin, but what about in like production, in like an actual chat room? Wouldn't the same issue come up with caching? Well, not really, because Django, the way we're going to build our models is it's already actually optimized for building an index, because we're using foreign keys on the user. So it's already sort of going to be quite efficient. And if you wanted to make it more efficient, like if you did have millions and millions of messages and a whole bunch of different users, you could just go to the Django documentation and look up how to index your data, and you could optimize it further that way. You wouldn't have to do this. We've kind of already, based on our database structure, because we've built chat room messages and have foreign keys to the chat room, so there's different users basically, an index will already automatically be generated on the user, so it's already going to be pretty efficient. Also foreign key on the chat room itself. So again, more efficiency there with the indexes. Django does this automatically, which is, a beautiful thing. All right, so now the chat message admin. So we'll do public room chat message admin and do admin.model admin, just like the other one. Now list display is the first one, and this will be the room, the user, and the timestamp. Those are the fields that we're going to be taking a look at. I'm going to copy this 3 more times and do the second one for, actually we'll do this one list filter, and then this one will be list display. These fields are going to be the same, but I'm just going to add one more, the content field. So literally adding all of the fields here. The third one is going to be the search fields. So adding that. We'll do room __ title, so we can search by the title of that room. Remember, the double underscore means you can access a field within that model, and we're going to be able to search by the individual user name, and then of course the content. So if you're looking for a specific message, you could like search by the content or some kind of a keyword in that message, and you're probably going to get a ton of entries, but I don't know. It's up to you to have this one or not. Now I want to do read only fields. And these fields will be ID, because you can't change the ID, the user, you can't change the user who makes that message, can't change the room, and you cannot ever change the timestamp. I think that's a good policy. Now I want to do show full result count equals false. This is kind of part of the caching stuff. We don't want them to show all of the results at once. Paginator equals the caching Paginator. That's the class up here that we just built. That one that some very, very helpful guy built for us. And then meta equals model, or model equals public chat or public room chat message. Now just register it like we did like we've done with every other admin. So just pasting this down below, pasting the admin in here, and this is public room chat message. So that's going to be our admin, and it's going to have some extra kind of caching strategy built into it, because like I said, if you don't use this and you have thousands or millions of messages, the admin is never going to load for you. All right, so Control S on that, and let's go to our development environment. And I'm going to just refresh it and see if we get any errors. Yes, we do get an error. So let's go to the console and check out what's going on here. So from Django core pagination import Paginator. So that's a wrong import. This should be from Django core Paginator. So Paginator import Paginator. So Control S on that. Let's go to our development environment again, refresh. That looks good. Now I'm going to go to the admin. Whoops, I typed admin wrong. It would help if I could spell. There's the admin, and now let's take a look here. We have this public chat section. We have public chat rooms, public room chat messages. There's currently no chat rooms and there's no public chat messages, but I am going to build our very first chat room. So let's go into the admin, go add public chat room. I'm going to give it a name of, let's give it a name of general, and there's no users. We never want to programmatically, we never want to go into the admin and manually add users. We want to let that be a system that is designated by the code that we write. We don't want to do that. So pressing save, and oh, it looks like you have to select a user. That's not right. We need to change our model. So if we go back to our model and go up to the public chat room model, this should be able to be blank. So blank equals true. That should be okay. Because there could potentially be no users. That's fine. So pressing Control S on that, run Python manage.py make migrations, and Python manage.py migrate. Then Python manage.py run server, and let's go back to the admin and see if it's working. So refresh on the admin. Let's go to the public chat room section, click on add a chat room named general, click save, and there we go. We have a new chat room named general. Just if you're wondering why like there's not a big list of users here, because maybe you're going to have a big list of users. I actually just screwed up and I had to delete my entire database, so now I only have one user. So just to let you know, if you see a big list of users, if you see a big list of users in your chat room, that's fine, that's normal. What you see here is not normal because I messed up. So if there's a list here, don't worry. That's normal. Now in the next video, we're going to get started with Django Channels, which is how we are going to be handling WebSockets on our website. So it's kind of like the back-end system behind the WebSockets. We're going to get started with that in the next video.